If you haven't done so yet, please give us a call at 856-DISSECT with your listener request month picks. We need your name, where you're calling from, and the movie you'd like to see us cover. You have until April 16th, so 11:59 on April 15th, East Coast time. Get those calls in. Tell us what you'd like to hear us cover. We are programming the show based on what you suggest this May. So get those calls in, 856-DISSECT. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers. And with me, as always, is a man who knows to never, ever use a wire hanger, the Macho Man Drew.
Andrew Lano. You might have, spoiler, you might have just taken my thing. So
oh, really?
We might have to, I don't know if it really matters, but
I don't think it really matters, but we'll just have it be the same. That's fine. It is the iconic. I had never seen this movie before, and I think I said this on the podcast, but I still, when I hang up clothes, because I hang up my t-shirts because I don't want them to shrink, so I don't put them in the dryer. I hang them up on hangers, and because I'm going to fold them in like a day, I put them on a wire hanger. I try not to use wire hangers for my real stuff, but for that I'm like, who cares? And I think about it almost every time that I do it, despite the fact that I had never seen this movie.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
I barely even know who Joan Crawford is.
Really?
To be quite honest with you. Yeah, I was looking at her IMDb, and I was like, I have seen zero of these things.
Fascinating.
Not one. Have you?
Yeah. I mean,
like, what movies of yours or hers or TV of hers that have you seen?
So I've seen Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. I really like that. It's far too long, but I really enjoy that. And now I'm blanking on the other things of hers that I've seen.
Okay.
And then there was the Ryan Murphy show a few years ago.
Right, but she wasn't in.
No, she was not.
That was about.
It was
her
about
and
her.
Bette Davis. Yeah. Okay.
But she was literally the biggest movie star.
I know of Joan Crawford because I'm a little weirdo who knows like way too much about old Hollywood because we went to Universal Studios and MGM in Florida as children, and it like turned us into like I was like, oh yes, the Busby Berkeley musical. All 10-year-old boys know everything about this.
Footlighters Parade.
Yeah, exactly. So I know of her like being a very famous person. If you show me a picture, I would be like, yeah, I could probably put it together that was Joan Crawford. Certainly I could now, having seen this, but I think I probably could have as well before. But yeah, I was like, I've seen none of these movies. I know the title, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, but I couldn't tell you what it's about. I don't
really
have this idea. No, yeah, not a clue.
Highly recommend it. It's on HBO Max right now as part of their like TCM collection.
I'm really actually one of my goals for this year that I have been woefully slacking on is I'm really bad before 19 really honestly before the 80s, but like before 1975 is like a ghost town in terms of movies that I've
That's
seen.
fair. I mean, generally for me too.
Yeah, I mean most people don't go that far back from when they were born. I think it's like as older people now, you meet a 15 or 20-year-old who's like a movie fan. They're like, oh, I just heard of this unheard of gem, Goodfellas. And I'm like, what?
Or you're like, what's an old, name an old scary movie. And they're like, Scream. And you're like, get out of my house.
Yeah. But it's like, I don't go that far back from when I was born. So it's unreasonable to expect other people to do that. But as somebody who likes movies, like I always try to get one real old horror movie in the mix because I watch a lot of horror in October.
You're talking like a Wolfman or a Dracula or like
those have certainly been titles. Yeah, this year I did Freaks, the Todd.
Oh, that 1920s one.
Yeah, it's either 1920s or it might be 1932, but it's in that same era. A few years ago, the Revival Theater in Baltimore did a screening of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is a silent German horror movie, and it was like a 10 a.m. screening, and I was like, this is gonna cost $7. It's gonna be neat to see it, and I will have the discipline of not looking at my phone because I'm in a movie theater. Mm-hmm. So let me go do that. And I enjoyed it quite a bit, but I definitely think if I tried to watch it at home, I'd have been like,
and then Tim Burton, you could see how Tim Burton did that and was like, what if I did only this?
Yeah.
Forever and got bad at it.
But yeah, so I always try to mix in at least one like older, before 1970, which is not that old, but you know what I mean, relatively speaking. I try to mix that in at the hard time. So I've been trying to do that more this year, and have been not doing a great job of it. But I'm trying to do that this year.
Well, I do recommend Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It is too long. I will admittedly.
Much like
this movie, it's too long, but it is like the performances are incredible, and the just everything about it is so fascinating. I don't know, I like that movie a lot.
All right. Well, we are in the beginning stages of Andrew Programs the Show in the month of April, known by its very easy to remember and pronounce title APTSITMOA, and we watched Mommie Dearest, so you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your wire hangers. Someone's gonna bet your wire hangers.
When the mega powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott!
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega powers, yeah!
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
So this was one of those movies where you bring something to the table, and I don't know anything about it, and I assume that it has some like massive reputation in gay culture, and I'm gonna be the straight guy who's like, I don't get it. And so that's exactly what this is. So just if you hate that kind of episode, you're going to be in for a treat.
It's more educational than anything we can say. So if you are a person who doesn't quite get Mommie Dearest, but you are open to the possibility, stick around.
Yeah. So I was doing some research while watching this, because I was like, okay, in the abstract, right? Like Faye Dunaway, the only note from this director whose name I never looked up,
Frank Perry.
I feel stupid about now. Thank you. Clearly the only thing Frank Perry knew how to say. I imagine Frank Perry as the woman who gives the curse in Thinner. He's just like, the guy, does something evil to her, and she's, thin air, and she, curses him. I imagine that Frank Perry was just saying, big air at every turn. And it was just like, whenever Faye Dunaway did a thing, he was like, that's great, but 200% more. And then they would do that take, and he'd be like, wonderful, but now try 400% more. Because Faye Dunaway is like, it's unbelievable the level she's operating
Do you want to hear something very fun?
Sure.
Every single person working on this movie at the time of filming earnestly, truly, honestly thought this was a contender for the Oscars for Best Performance, Best Picture, genuinely thought that they were making something like that.
So here's my question. Having just admitted to having never seen a Joan Crawford movie, is this right? Is this accurate?
No.
Like, is this how she did her movie performance?
No, it's not.
Okay.
So this movie has so much going on in it that so many layers to this, because Joan Crawford, like I said, was the biggest movie star. She was not the best actress. I will acknowledge that, but she was the biggest movie star because she wanted to be. So she was like the most, what did someone describe her as the most devout student of stardom. Like her name was given to her in a contest because all stars had to make up a new name, and she was like, I'm going to let people pick so that they will, everything was about how do I assimilate into this and become something bigger. And so everything was very calculated and manicured and sort of facaded, which is why this movie is hilarious, that Joan Crawford very obviously hid a lot of her private life. She wrote a book about fine dining and hosting, because she was known as I'm the host and the queen of Pepsi Cola, and then Hollywood made a movie about all the shitty stuff behind the scenes that she had worked very hard to hide away from everything.
And also this is based on a book.
Yes,
Tina Crawford, or I don't know if she goes by Christina or Tina, but they switch back and forth in the movie. But Christina Crawford wrote this book about how horrible her childhood was as the adopted kid of Joan Crawford, and it came out right after she died.
Yes, so she had been sort of writing it as with her friend, as a thing. The story goes, allegedly, that she was just kind of like writing it personally as a cathartic exercise, but her mother and her had been sort of reconciling in there as she's like, I'm an adult now, like you're my mother, like whatever. And like we're on speaking terms and we're, hanging out and all of these things. And she was like, oh, I guess, we're moving past this. I guess I forgive you as much as a person can in this instance.
Right.
And then Joan Crawford dies. And in her will, like in the movie, she says, I am explicitly leaving out my son, Christopher, and daughter, Christina, for reasons that are known to them. And she was like, well, what the actual fuck? Because I thought we were cool, buddy. So she finishes this book and she publishes it.
Yeah. And then it becomes this movie, and the movie is basically just sections of the book, just almost word for word dictated into film, basically.
Kind of.
Well, I'm saying there's like a bunch of everything, and it might just be because the movie has this reputation, but like everything on the book's Wikipedia page is explicitly in this movie. Yeah.
So there are things that are wrong and weird, and Christina Crawford, like she's like, this movie, she understands it as a camp classic now, but at the time she was like, that wasn't my mom, like that wasn't Joan Crawford, that wasn't what happened, like they really fucked this up. And it's crazy because this script went through like 100 revisions because originally Franco Zeffirelli was supposed to direct it with Anne Bancroft as Joan Crawford, which like, that's a very different film. That's a very different film.
Yeah, it would.
And like one script opened with Louis B. Mayer like groping Joan Crawford and being like, this is your new name, Toots, which would have been that version of the movie is very fascinating. But it just kept getting muddled and muddled and muddled until these people thought they were making a movie about the horrors of child abuse and like the effect of Hollywood on women. And then they were describing the movie as like glamorous and elegant and beautiful. And it's like it's very difficult to make those two. That's not the same movie. It's hard to make that movie.
Right. Yeah. And so it's like, I was observing this movie, obviously, like I know of it only by reputation, you're watching it and it's like the colors it's almost Busby Berkeley-esque in its like color and lighting, honestly.
It feels old Hollywood.
Yeah. And the beautiful gowns she's always wearing, the clothes are all very
the sets.
Nice. It's all lit very brightly, like everything is kind of a wonderland. And it's like, you can make the movie where everything is wonderland and it hides this dark exterior, but you need to make that the movie. And instead, this is like really brutal scenes of child abuse, also really lit and scored and undertaken as if it were a Busby Berkeley musical. And so I get how you can laugh at this. I really do. But for me, I kept thinking like, but it's real though. Like this really happened to this girl, and I just felt so sad for her all the time that like I couldn't laugh in the way that I get how people laugh at it. Like this is not a judgment thing. I was just like, the first one in particular, like when she's chopping her hair off, it's like objectively I get how that's funny. I totally do. It's silly. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
Like the way she's playing it, the lighting, the performances from both Tina and Joan. Go ahead.
Well, it's funny because like it's Faye Dunaway is like the craziest, and the cinematography doesn't help because there's so many of these like long dead air shots of just her staring down the barrel of the camera, which allegedly Faye Dunaway ordered to happen. She was like, the camera will face me at all times. Like other women are going to be in profile and out of focus. It's going to be on me.
I mean, it makes sense if you're channeling, Joan Crawford, and if any of this is true, that feels accurate.
Yeah. But so like the scene it's Tina in the mirror pretending to be her mom accepting an award. And it's a very like sweet little moment, but she is lingering in the background, and they let this poor little girl go on so long, just repeating herself of like, my adoring fans, as she like slinks up behind her like she's a Bond villain.
Yeah. She not like a Bond villain, like Michael fucking Myers.
But I mean, like it's this her villainry in this movie, because I think you have to separate this. Like this movie is Joan Crawford the character in this as she appears in the movie Mommie Dearest versus Joan Crawford the person. I'm sure there's overlap, but like this version, is high camp version, is like a Bond villain.
Agreed entirely. It was just like, I was reading the Wikipedia and it was like several of the scenes in the book were just like right into the thing. Like she didn't mention the hair in the book, but like the wire hangers thing they mentioned, the roses. So I was just like, oh man, I just felt so sad for this kid the whole time. And the brother, it's like, yeah. So I get it. I totally understand how you could laugh at this movie. 100,000,000%. I just personally wasn't. And it was just like, oh, this is a slog. Could
I have warned you in a way to like prepare you for that?
No, I don't think so. Because like I said, it's if you were to make this, I don't know. First of all, you would never make this movie. It wasn't based on real people. Like it would be ludicrous. Like, it would be insane. So that's obviously not it. But
you would, and it would be really obvious Oscar bait.
Yeah, I get the Room quality to this 1,000,000%. It was just like The Room is insane and no one was harmed in the making of the picture. And in this one, I'm like, well, both of these kids seem pretty harmed by their lives that are depicted.
And probably the actors, other actors by Faye Dunaway.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I was just like, oh man, like what a bummer. I'm just this poor girl like weeping, like I can't go to school like this. I was like, yeah, this sucks. This is really a bummer. Anyway, we should progress through and do our normal thing, but that's where I'm coming from in this. I did find moments of joy here, but I cannot believe this movie is
too long.
BT dubs.
I honestly think if you were to take out a lot of those like dead air, let me slowly walk towards the camera moments, it's probably an hour 45.
Yeah, and the other thing too is she's always lit with that like eye light over the eyes,
the Morticia Addams lighting.
Yeah, it looks like almost as if you had a Ninja Turtles eye band out of light.
Or it's about to cut into like a Kill Bill style eye moment.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a fun edit.
Yeah.
She sees the wire hanger and then
yeah. That's basically what this movie does over and over again. Like you watch her, have an absolute freak out. Speaking of, we start with an opening montage that's her getting ready and like pouring boiling water on herself and scrubbing herself till she's raw.
Because Joan Crawford was fastidious about her appearance because that was the most important thing to her. And so she was crazy. Yeah. The like bands on your face when you sleep to like keep you everything where it's supposed to be. Tight. I will say I love the bathroom fridge because in Feud, she has vodka in there. And I just like, that's a goal for me. The bathroom fridge.
You need vodka in the bathroom.
It's just I love the idea. I love the idea of that.
You're describing being an alcoholic.
No. I'm not saying I need vodka in the bathroom every day. The idea that you're like getting ready for the night and you're like, I'm gonna have a drink here, and like you can because you have this like giant elegant bathroom with a fridge in it. I think that's very old glamour.
I get it. Yes. I would also say maybe bring the drink from the bar and do it that way when you have the big bathroom.
But if you're old glamour, then then you can have a drink. You can make your drink anywhere. There's the world is your bar when you're a 40s movie star.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I understand the bit. I'm just saying that is 100% the behavior of an alcoholic person.
Also, in the 40s, everyone was an alcoholic.
Yeah, that's true.
That was just called being a human.
Yeah.
The shower is also great. It's probably 1,000 gallons per second, but I love it.
Yeah. But this whole bit sets up Joan Crawford really well. The character in the movie version of Joan Crawford, at least, she's like cleaning up after the maid. She's moving things,
waking up at 4 a.m. to get ready for her day.
Right. Which is just to like go visit with a studio exec. It's not like
she was filming.
Oh, okay. Okay, but she wasn't like when you talk about an actor like, oh, they got up at 3 a.m. It's like because they have to have 9 pounds of monster makeup put on. This was her like, I have to put this.
She had to get ready first so that she could go to the studio and get glamored
and have other makeup put on. Yeah,
she really does look spot on like Joan Crawford.
She does. Yeah, it is. She does look just like her. And like I said, like Faye Dunaway, her performance is insane in this movie, but it's obviously what they wanted her to do. You know what I mean? It was like, this was not an accident. This was an intentional choice by either her, the director, some combination thereof.
So I think it's a combination of like a director who doesn't know how to rein someone in.
Right.
And like for a while, because forever Faye Dunaway refused to talk about this movie. Like if it came up in an interview, she would walk.
Right.
Because she thinks like to her the word camp is like an insult, and it's like, no, girl, camp is its own thing. Like camp can be good.
Yeah.
And so she blamed the director a lot. And I'm like, you also have to like, you can blame him for not stoking the fire well, but you put a lot of logs on that fire, lady.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you built a towering inferno, and you gave him a water pistol. And it was like, well, what do you want him to do with it?
Yeah.
You know, it's. I also really love Carol Ann, who plays her assistant throughout this whole thing, is sort of a composite character from a lot of assistants and secretaries that
maids
Joan Crawford had. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, the maid is different than the assistant, I think, in terms of the thing, but I'm sure there's a little bit of that as well. But the same actress plays Carol Ann, the assistant, throughout the run of this. But there's an incredible bit here where her beau arrives, and there's like this long kind of side eye look from the assistant that I guffawed at. It was a nice little piece of tiny acting.
That actress released a book about how awful it was filming with Faye Dunaway.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called.
I can imagine.
It's called like
that.
The Carol Ann Diaries or something.
Oh wow! It's. I honestly, I'm surprised the publisher didn't call it Faye Dearest.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, I could see her being a nightmare to work with on this, because this seems like one of the like, I'm channeling Joan at all times. This is what I'm bringing.
Allegedly, she got herself made up as Joan Crawford and just showed up on the director's doorstep to like campaign for the role. So
wow.
So
yeah.
If you thought Jared Leto was shitty, just imagine.
Well, I imagine nobody got a dead rat from Faye Dunaway or a used condom, I would assume.
No, instead, an actress said, I won't go near her because I just got out of the hospital with a back problem a month ago. So, physical harm versus mental emotional harm.
Did she beat somebody up on the set?
So, the scene where she's choking out adult Christina and then Carol Ann runs over to pull her off, Barbara was supposed to do that, and she saw how intense Faye was going and was like, no, like, absolutely not. I'm not getting involved in this.
Because Barbara gets in there, like, very half-assedly.
She's just kind of there. She's the fourth person. Like, if one dude's climbing a ladder and there's four people, she's the fourth person to be like, yeah, my hands are here, but, like, I don't have a lot of support for you on this ladder.
Right. And if you fall, I'm not going to catch you. I'm going to go, ah!
Yeah.
Yeah. So we go to Christmas at St. Jude's, and it's very obvious that Joan wants a baby, and you know we're the other issue with this movie as a movie, which like you know there are many, but it's one of those movies, we talk about this a lot. It's just a collection of scenes. Mm-hmm. Like it's just like you go A, B, C, D, E all the way through the alphabet, and it's just like there's very little connecting scene A to B and so on and so forth. And so it's like, you know, the man comes over and they like talk, and clearly they're gonna have sex, and then it's like whoom, it's at St. Jude's and we're giving toys to children and we're smiling at children. There's like a lot of press and snap, 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 and it's like obviously June wants a baby. Wham! We're at the adoption agency, and the adoption's like they're like absolutely not. You are completely unqualified to have a child. Wham! Now all of a sudden like here's a baby, Joan. I pulled some strings. Wait, what? How did that?
They bought a baby.
How did he pull some strings? Is that what it is?
Yeah, they bought a baby.
From like a destitute person or an orphanage? You know the story?
I don't, but I
okay.
I know that it was like they can't come through the legal channels because all the agencies were like no, which is crazy that like someone that rich still can't just like buy their way into things.
Well, she did.
But I mean like
happens.
You would think that the orphanages would just be like, yeah, I guess for $5 million you can walk out of here with a kid.
I don't know, man. I have some friends who are in the process of trying to do that, and it is I know it's 2022 and not 19 whatever it was, but it is really intense to adopt children.
Well,
it is
also,
really, really.
No offense to your friends, I don't think they're the world's largest movie stars.
No,
with
that's true.
a lot of
that's
money.
True.
That's what I'm talking about. That like the world's biggest movie star with a huge pile of like she could walk in with a Santa sack full of dollar bills and be like, here's a blank check, give me a baby.
Right. Yeah. You're not wrong. Certainly at that time too, the rich people had the power in a big bad way. So it is shocking that she had to go through these side channels. But the movie doesn't talk about that at all. There's not like any part of it that's like, oh, okay, I got you. It's just like, no, I pulled some strings. Here's a child. Oh, a couple days later, here's another child. Now you got two. Like, what?
A few years later.
Couple scenes later is what I meant to say. I said days. Yes. Yes, thank you. Obviously not back to back. I also love, there's obviously a lot of media at this birthday, but I think, is it all media or is some of this like the home movies for Joan and the baby that she's got like this mini carnival and someone to film it?
I think some of it's I think it's both. Because Christina Crawford on record has always said like, Joan adopted me for publicity, period.
Oh, for
and
sure.
then,
yeah.
And then also in the same interview was like, look at Madonna, look at Angelina Jolie. And the interviewer was like, what? And she was like, you think they're holding press conferences for the children? Yeah. Buddy, come on.
Yeah. Although, did Angelina Jolie hold press
I don't
conferences?
think she did.
Remember that.
It always seemed like very much just like the paparazzi was just like, there's another kid.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know.
Madonna, I would believe did.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know Madonna had children. That eluded my brain, which is full of useless information, but not that particular bit of useless. Not shocking to me. I just didn't know it. So there's also inexplicably like 4 soldiers drinking Coke.
I love it.
At this party.
No, it's not. I know it would be Coke because she wasn't Pepsi yet.
It is Coke. Yeah. They're 100. They're the iconic Coke bottle shape. It's not like label out or anything, but like 1,000,000% they're Coca-Colas. And I'm just like, why are these servicemen here? Is she doing the servicemen? Is that part of it?
Probably.
Like,
very probably,
yeah.
But
they're very handsome dudes.
But also it could just be like, hey, you're on leave. Come spend time with a celebrity.
Yeah. She's like getting interviewed with the soldiers as part of it.
Yeah. And she and Christina are in matching dresses.
Yes, and then
I love this. Like, this is one of several moments that I just like always think about because Christina, like, they're gonna take their picture together. Christina goes, "I have a grass stain," and Joan uncharacteristically goes, "Oh, that'll never show." And the photographer goes, "Actually, Miss Crawford, it might show." And then it cuts to Joan in this look of like, "I could rip the skin from your face."
Yes. But also, like, this is one of the head scratchers for me because I was like, if it did show, you would be so mad. You would kill him. Mm-hmm. Like, he's doing you a favor.
Well, it's like, I don't know where the anger is supposed to be directed at. Is it at him? Is it at Christina?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Because it's a bad movie, you don't get that information.
Yeah.
At this point, also, she talks about, like, oh, I must have a second baby. She
has Christopher now as well.
That's right. Because in a second, we see Christopher. Yeah, so we go upstairs. The party's over. Christina's got her presents, and she's picking, and she's got this doll, and she's like, "Is that your favorite? Because you have to donate all the rest." And I was just like, "What the fuck is happening here now?"
Yeah,
like,
it's fucking monster.
Yeah, well, it's like it'd be one thing if it was like, oh, there are like. You see the pile of presents, and it is like a normal child's birthday party number.
Shockingly, you would think it's like a Scrooge McDuck situation,
right? Like she's got like 6, maybe. It's not like there's 50 presents here in a big pile. It's like, yeah, if all of her friends brought her a little toy, that seems like about right. You know, there's like a dozen kids at this party. And
yeah.
Like, at one point, you see a table with many presents, but when we see the aftermath, there are not many presents. So it's just like, oh, okay, this is like. You choose one of 3 and you have to get rid of the rest.
She doesn't want to spoil her kids.
Right. So I think this guy's name is Greg.
Greg.
The actor Greg.
It's Greg.
He's like the man, the man friend for the beginning chunk of the movie.
Yeah.
He gives a bracelet to Tina, and they have to literally negotiate for her to be able to keep it right in front of her, which is like, oh, this is good.
Because Tina says, I love it, but I've already picked the present I get to keep, which like, you don't know if Tina's like aware yet, but like teenage Tina would have fully done this on purpose to like force her mom into this.
Yeah, for sure.
And so he's
Well, teenage Tina is a person who has deep psychological scarring
Yes.
and has like learned to adjust to live in a world with a narcissistic sociopath. So like, yeah, teenage Tina has some coping mechanisms she's developed.
yes. But young Tina just says like, "Oh, I've already picked the present I'm keeping, so I can't keep this bracelet." And he's like, "Well, in some words, like, I spent a lot of money on this, so I'm going to take it back until you don't have to do that."
Yes, exactly. Of like, no. How about
This bracelet
not
was a
that?
house payment, so
Yes. Yeah.
we're not giving it to the other orphans, Joan. So they're outside swimming, and
This scene is so insane. This is like pants on head crazy. I mean, many
I was
scenes
like,
are, but this one.
I was like, girl, how many?
This is not the only one. I'm just saying this scene is bonkers.
Joan's like forcing Christina to keep diving to like perfect her technique, and it's like, is she gonna be in a Busby Berkeley like
Was Joan a synchronized swimmer in a Busby musical?
No.
Or was it just like something she had exposure to. Okay,
she was?
because I didn't see evidence of that on the IMDb.
No, she started as like a chorus girl, and then became like a flapper, and then became like a sophisticated. She like basically whatever was popular, she just kind of became for each decade.
Got it.
And Joan's in this like swim robe kind of thing. Like it's clearly designed for like swimming, like after swimming, but it's got shoulder pads because Joan Crawford.
Yes. Yeah, all of her outfits have shoulder pads, including the robes and the like robes later when she's like passed out drunk. She still has shoulder pads.
Because that was the Joan Crawford signature.
Right. So she like her and Greg are smoking cigarettes, and you know they've been doing this for quite a while. They're drinking, and she's giving Tina instructions on the dives, and she keeps do it again, but do it better, do it again. And Tina's like dying. She's exhausted. She's a kid. She doesn't want to be doing this, and so she finally gets her last one in, and she gives her one final bit of instruction, and she's like, "All right, do you want to swim?" And it's like, well, isn't she already?
First she tells Greg that she wants a role, and
Yes.
as a studio lawyer, he should do something to help out.
Yeah.
Which conflict of interest? That's not fair.
Well, I mean, come on. You don't think that's how these things happen?
I mean,
like,
of course it is, but like
minute to minute basis.
But like he has to decide if he is in a position to be able to have that clout.
Yeah, I suppose so. But he seems like he's pretty high powered, and so they go to like he kind of like walks off, and she's like, fix this problem whenever he kind of leaves. It's the sort of how they leave it. And she's like, all right, Tina, do you want to swim? And I'm like, wasn't she already swimming? And then it's like, oh no, we're gonna have races. And she lets her get like a modest head start, and then just destroys her in this race.
She has such pride in beating her daughter at swimming.
Yes, yeah. She's like, well, if you were better, it would be you.
I'm
you would
bigger,
lose.
I'm
And it's-
faster, and I'll always win.
Yeah. And it was just like, oh, you're a lunatic. You're a completely unhinged lunatic. And then Tina very rightfully is like, well, I don't want to play with you.
That's not fair.
Like, if that's,
so
yeah, that's not, it's also not very fun.
yeah. And so Joan loses her mind, and like when she won't go to her room, she like grabs her and throws her into the pool house and locks her in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's bonkers.
It's Carrie. It's that scene in Carrie where she throws her in the
It
prayer
absolutely
closet.
is. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a crossover
honestly,
that I think giving Tina psychic abilities, I think, is a fun crossover for Mommie Dearest.
Honestly, that's sort of how I watched this. It was like watching Carrie, where it's like, who would laugh at the scenes in Carrie? Like a lunatic would laugh at that. And it's like, they're not that different in terms of the bigness of the performance.
Yeah, I
It's
guess,
just the outfits are different.
What's the actress's name for Margaret White? Piper Laurie. Like, she's also swinging for the fences, but it just, it feels more grounded in a weird way in Carrie.
It's because, it's because it's the movie, like, it's not a Busby Berkeley background with the Carrie performances in it. So that's, like, I get the incongruity and why it's so
also,
funny.
Brian De Palma is just a really good director.
Right. But I was kind of watching this movie like as you would watch Carrie, where I'm just like, oh, this poor child. So she gets this big part, and she's very happy until she walks in on Tina pretending to be her, which we talked about this scene a little bit before. And it's just this soul-crushing back-to-back sequence where first there's the locked in the pool house thing.
Well, they also sandwich it with
kid stuff.
So Joan is jogging while Carol Ann drives next to her.
Oh,
which
right. Yeah.
gotta say, love that idea. So like, you don't have to do a loop. You could be like, I'm gonna jog until I get tired, and then just drive me home.
I don't think that's how that works. I think the person in the car is like motivating you.
Yes, but I like that idea of like, rather than just doing a loop and doing the same loop every day, you could be like, I'm just gonna jog until like I hit the mile marker that I want, and then just hop in the car and go home.
Gotcha.
And that scene, it's clearly supposed to show that, like, because they talk about it, like everything in this movie is camp and there's no subtlety. And so they're like, your fans should know how much you sacrifice. And she's like, Louis B. Mayer should know how much I sacrifice. So she's like drenched. She's like Rocky sweaty.
Yeah, she's dressed like Rocky. Yeah, she's clearly doing a sweat. She's like a high school wrestler trying to cut weight. She's got like lots of clothes on.
Yeah.
To sweat a lot.
And she's jogging. And it's like, you can make a movie about how shitty Hollywood was to women in the 40s. And you can make a movie about how someone you idolized as a famous person was actually abusive. Mm-hmm. You can't really tell those stories together because you are now humanizing and sort of glorifying your abuser. And that is where this movie struggles constantly.
Yes. And the tonal difference of those two stories and how this movie looks on screen.
Yes. So she sees Tina pretending to be her in a very like little kids just pretending.
It's the most little kid. Like she's sitting on her mom's chair. She's pretending to give an Oscar type speech. It's like something every little kid does.
Especially if their mom is a famous actress who she regularly watches. But like she regularly watches her mom, greet her fans, talk to press. Like this is her life. And Joan sees it as insulting her, and she starts like trying to brush some setting lotion out of her hair, and it's clearly hurting, and then just like cuts all her hair off, and she's like,
yes,
it's this unhinged, screaming, foaming at the mouth performance.
Yes, and it's also brutal to watch because this kid is like sobbing. Like, please don't do this. What I look at me. I look insane. Like I can't go to school.
But then, so she says, I can't go to school like this. I look ridiculous. And Joan's response is, of course you do. I'd rather you go to school bald and looking like a tramp. And it's like, what movie are we making? That is like, to me, it's always what Faye Dunaway was given to say that makes things funny. Because it's like, that response to that is comical. Like,
yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah. And she doesn't look like a tramp. She has like wet hair.
Yeah. So we could then cut to Joan at a restaurant with Greg, and her fans swamp her. So he goes inside without her, which they get in a fight about this. And I will say, I see both sides of this argument.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with Steve. Steve must be the actor. I'm with Greg here. I'm like, if you want to do that, that's fine. But like, I'm hungry. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't have any interest in doing this.
So and
they end up like having to sit with some
Louis B. Mayer
exec people. Yeah. But it's not just him. There's also a couple other people.
Yeah, because she finally gets inside, and Greg is now sitting with Mayer of. I said Louis B. Mayer as if that's like common knowledge.
Yeah, I was like,
he is the third M in MGM, Metro Goldwyn Mayer.
Yes. Yeah, I did not know who Louis B. Mayer was, and then I was like, I probably have heard this name because again, like Universal Studios and MGM and stuff. Like I probably heard that name, but I do not know this person very well. But he's obviously incredibly well known because he's one of the MGM.
Yeah, he's the third M, and he's the second M in MGM. Louis B. Mayer. I think he's the one who constantly called Judy Garland fat during Wizard of Oz filming.
A class act.
So that was Hollywood. It sucked.
Yeah. And the way they introduce him, it sounds like it's the mayor, like the mayor of Hollywood or Los Angeles.
I mean, I guess kind of might be, and like not officially, but like
yeah.
And Joan's like, well, we're gonna go to art, like the very classic, like passive, like, well, I'm gonna let you go. We're gonna go sit at our table, and he's like, no, you're gonna sit with us. I insist. And it's like the abuse. You see the abuse that she would give to Tina is on her. And it's like, yeah, women have no agency. Like, we know that, and it's shitty.
Right. And then they go home, and Greg makes a valid point. He's like, if you'd come in with me and we sat down, they would have come to us and then left, and we wouldn't have had to do that. Like, and then she's like, well, I had to, spend time with the fans, and you could have waited for me. And it's just like, I don't know, man. Like, there's a reasonable number of autographs you could sign, Joan.
I
You
see
didn't have to
both
sign
sides
everyone.
because in terms of Hollywood, like, you are only worth as much as your fans think you're worth, which like is awful. Objectively, that is not good way to qualify human existence. But
right.
So Joan always gave a shit about her fans. Like, that was her biggest, because
obviously, yeah.
Stardom movie, like, she was a huge movie star, and she was like, I will do whatever it takes to stay a movie star.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But so she's given a performance about him, being shitty or whatever, and he straight up says, "Get up! There's no cameras in here."
Yeah, it's good. This fight is ridiculous. But this is the most that this actor gets to do in this movie. It's solid.
So he leaves her alone, and then also, like, the fight that they're having, like a screaming match here. This is as if you were watching like 30 Rock or some other sitcom, and they cut to a soap opera that exists in the world of the sitcom. Yes,
that is the level that this is occurring at. They're at 112 out of 10.
Well, I mean, Faye's always there, so he's just rising to meet her.
No. But this fight is like, everything about this is like the maximum theatricality and dramatics. And he basically is like, "I'm leaving you," and she's like, "If you walk out, you can never come back." And he's like, "Yeah, I get that.
That's kind of the point.
That's what I mean when I say I'm leaving you." So the next morning, Joan and Carol Ann are ripping all of Steve. I keep calling him Steve. Greg's pictures out of the photos,
and just cutting and like going with scissors and just cutting his face out. And and Tina sees this, and she says, "If she doesn't like you, she'll make you disappear," which, like, is a weird line to put, like...
Yeah, no, it is.
That is a weird line.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Joan's fan club stuffing envelopes of her photo to mail out to people, which it's...
And Tina's helping with this a little bit.
It's one of those things that, like, for world building, I get, but, like, it does not need to be there. Because it's not clarified that that's her fans. Right.
And it's also... they're trying to build this, like, oh, here's her public face and here's her private face, but it's like, yeah, we get it. Like, I've seen this multiple times already in the movie. I get it. I understand.
And then we get
she, like, the whole, like, she, like, walks down the row and she's like, "Oh, Tina," and she, like, touches her face very sweetly, and it's like, in an hour she's gonna beat you. Like, she's a lunatic.
And then we get a scene that I quote a lot. Christopher and Christina are just, like, being kids, just playing in the yard, getting loud or whatever. Yeah. And then Joan, like a fairy tale witch, throws open the shutters and goes, "Christopher! Christina! Damn it!" And the number of times I've shouted that at my friends and my boyfriend is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's incredibly over the top. Like that, like this whole movie.
It's a fairy tale witch.
Yeah, it is. It is. Did we jump over the part where Joan, like... There's two scenes back to back. One is Joan, and then right after it is no. That's what's next. So Joan, like, is yelling at... Joan says, like, "Make Tina bring me my coffee," and then she, like, sort of crushes Tina's spirit under her boot heel here. But they do the, like, crazy eye light thing, and then we cut to Tina replicating this scene to her dolls with the same Joan eye light, which I thought
I didn't catch the eye light there.
Yeah, they shoot Tina at the same angle as they shoot Joan for her highlight scenes where she's, like, really giving it guff directly to camera. Tina gets the same treatment here. And I was like, okay, like, I see what we're doing in terms of, like, filmmaking. I see what you're doing here. But this is followed up again with another one of those scenes where Joan is, like, lurking like Michael Myers in the background, and she just, like, takes her toys away and throws them in the garbage because she's like, "Well, I heard you telling them they were disobedient children." It's like, bitch, she was imitating you. I learned it from watching you.
And
like, this whole
the scene where Tina goes to be like, "Mom, where'd my toys go?" is literally like Joan's, like, lounging in her robe in a recliner, lotioning herself like a fucking like a Bond villain. It's just like, "Hello, Mr. Bond. Let me do my menial task to introduce myself.
Yeah.
Make a cup of coffee. Tink tink. Lotion my elbows."
Yeah. And it's like, if you squint, you can see what they're trying to do, right? Because, like, here's a scene where Joan throws her things away, and then it immediately goes to the scene where she meets with Louis B. Mayer and he throws Joan away. And it's like, there is a movie that exists that does this effectively. It's not this one,
Yeah.
but you could do I see what you're trying to do. You're just not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
The part of this that I like the best is like, he basically is like, look, I'm doing this to save face for you. Like this is me doing you a favor. Like I'm going to let you go and we're going to do it in this way. And she like fights him and fights him and fights him. She finally comes around to it. And she's like, well, I'll send Carol Ann, my secretary, to come pick up my things. And he's like, no, they're already in your car. And she's like aghast at like, she keeps trying to win this interaction and he just keeps swatting her down. And finally she's like, well, at least will you walk me to my car? And he doesn't even say no. He just stares at her until she leaves. He's a psycho too.
But like, he's trying to be nice. It's scripted in a way that he's like, I'm looking out for you by doing this. And, you know, I'm blah, blah. And I'm like, there's a 0% chance that is how that interaction went down. No fucking way that a studio head in the height of the studio system was like, I care about you. No.
Right.
I also thought,
I will say though, if it wasn't publicly acrimonious, they did do her a favor in that era. I'm not saying that like, this man's a saint or anything. I'm just saying you could easily have been like, yeah, she's a nightmare to work with and she sucks. We're cutting her loose, as opposed to just being like, you know, we had a creative difference and we couldn't see eye to eye. It's not nice either way, but he at least gave her like the opportunity to have a career, which he did not. He could have destroyed given the time frame. I'm not nominating this man for
no, but I just mean like I can't imagine that is how any studio head would do that.
Yeah, he probably came in and he was like, there's two ways this goes. You walk out of here with your shit, or I tell everybody that you're trying to sleep with me and you're an insane person. And she was like, okay, I'll leave.
Yeah, or he pulled out his dick, you know, probably the option 3.
He definitely pulled out his dick in a meeting with Joan Crawford at some point.
Oh, 100%. But then, so I know Warner Brothers scooped her up so that because they were like, oh, Joan Crawford, scoop?
Yeah.
Later, she cries about them letting her contract go, but I always thought that she chose to leave Warner Brothers because she was like, you're not giving me any roles.
I have no idea. But the studio system back then, once you were locked in, you really didn't have, like, obviously it's nothing like what it is now where actors kind of just choose projects. Back then, you were signed up with a studio, specific studio, and you had to just make movies for them. And if they gave you a bunch of shit movies, that's what you got to make. Because
Betty Davis sued. She was at Warner Brothers, and she sued to be like, you're giving me shit. I'm better than this. Come on.
Yeah. So this is the big Rose Garden scene, which is one of the big, truly unhinged ones that you know people talk about a lot.
So this scene did happen in real life, according to Christina Crawford, but it was not spurred on by anything.
Interesting.
She was like, they made it like that. It happened because she got let go. She's like, no, it didn't. There was no reason for it. Which I think that's Christina's big problem. She's like, they kept trying to like make sense of things, and I think Christina Crawford is like, nothing really made sense.
Right. I mean, she lived with a narcissistic sociopath. Like, that's what happened. Like, there's no rhyme or reason. There's no explanation. But the thing is, like, they try to put why in the movie, but they still don't do enough why. Like, I read Ebert's review, and that was his thing. Is like, you see all these actions, and there's never any explanation for, like, why they happen. Like, at this point in particular, this is where we see that the brother is strapped to the bed every night. There's not any explanation whatsoever for why that happens in this movie. They don't...
I think it's sleepwalking, but
she said that various things I read said either sleepwalking or that he kept getting up to go to the bathroom, which if it's the second thing, like, oh, so you wanted a bed with pee in it? Like, how is that a solution to this problem?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, they clearly show him being strapped in or unstrapped from his bed with no explanation. It's like, how did that one skate by everyone with like, did no one notice you forgot to film a scene with Faye saying why he was strapped in?
Yeah, and it's because Christopher is barely a character in the movie.
Yeah.
He's barely in the movie at all. He's a baby. Then we see him strapped in here. He gets like 3 lines of dialogue later as a kid, and then we see him as an adult.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, like, it is a book about a person's abuse from their mother, and then it's a movie about their mother.
Right.
So, like, right away, there's some mistranslations here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly what you said, is like, you're trying to humanize this person. And so you just end up in this bizarre cycle where it's like, oh, this is the reason why she did it, you know, and it's like, well, I don't really think that we need that. Like, what are you trying to say?
It's also like you can do the humanized abuser story.
Yeah.
But like you need to fully commit to that and like make her a full realized human and like round her out. But if you don't do that, you can't just go halfway because then it feels like you were like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is like 3 half stories.
Yes.
Kind of all glommed into a movie, which is why it's 2 hours and 10 minutes long.
Yes. But now Joan is in a gown, in a red carpet gown, chopping down roses, which is just a delight.
Yeah. And then she makes the kids come out and help. She's like, pick up these stalks. She makes
bring me the axe.
Get an axe. Yeah, which is just insane. Like they show Faye Dunaway swinging this axe. It clearly looks like she did not know how to use an axe, which is fine.
Probably
not. Everyone needs to know how to use an axe. But she's taking these like really awkward swings, and I'm like, is she even cutting the tree? And then finally they go to a close up where you see just the axe hitting the tree and it cutting it. But I'm genuinely not sure that Faye Dunaway cut the tree at all.
No,
while she was swinging this axe.
I also I want to cut from Tina, bring me the axe to what is it in Moonstruck? I won't do it.
Get me the big knife.
And then
I won't do it, Mr. Cambrera.
Yeah, I want that mashup. But also, this is a thing that's always annoyed me. Joan Crawford was like fastidious and religious about her appearance. And then they show her here with cuts all over her face from the rose garden. And it's like, bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah, she would.
Maybe her arms, if you want to put her arms scratched up, that face might as well have been insured.
Yeah. So now we have Joan Crawford is like practicing for screen tests. She's running lines with both her daughter and Carol Ann.
For Mildred Pierce, which is her only Oscar-winning role.
Yeah, she was like begging and begging and begging for this, and they wouldn't give it to her, and she finally like convinced them that she was worthy of it. And we go from that to lunch. And first of all, eating prime rib for lunch is a great way to sleep for the rest of the day. This is like a huge lunch that they are forcing down their guts.
I mean, if you're children, there's not like you don't really have to do much for your day.
No, but it's a crazy lunch that they're having, this like huge, prime rib slice. And I'm like, I don't, my preference is medium rare. I'll eat pretty much steak cooked anyway. But this is not only is this a rare steak, the one in the movie looks really gross. It is like
it's basically tartare that hasn't been cut yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I think the rare meat was another real thing from the book.
It is, yeah. And in the book version, she made her put it in the fridge, and then she wasn't allowed to eat for several days.
She kept trying to she kept putting the same plate in front of her to make her eat it.
Yeah. Which they kind of do in this. They there's like a big fight here where she's like, I don't like this beef. It is gross looking or whatever. And they fight over it. And then she's like, well, put your plate in the fridge. And then later it's like, Joan's like, oh, I'm going out tonight. You're going to eat that for dinner. And I'm like, kid, flush it down the toilet.
Yeah.
Like just flush it down the toilet. She's not home.
So she goes to bed, and then Joan comes in and like does whatever. And she sees the plate of meat next to Christina sleeping in bed. Yeah. And she takes it, and there's like, again, a very long, lingering shot of Joan in a ball gown holding a plate of rare meat as she descends the stairs.
She descends the stairs, and we keep saying Busby Berkeley, but like classic movie musical entrance down this grand staircase.
Do you remember in The Birdcage when Nathan Lane walks down those stairs in the beginning, and each stair lights up as he steps on it?
Yes.
You half expect the stairs to be like, shh, pa, da.
Also, she's in like a sparkly silver gown, and the background is sparkly too, and the stairs are even a little bit sparkly. It's crazy.
Yeah. So the next morning, Tina comes down for breakfast, and she's put the plate of meat in front of her. It's just like sociopath behavior.
Yeah, exactly. But Tina ultimately wins because she says she can throw it away, and then it's like, why does everything have to be a fight around here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, maybe because you're horrible. There's no this again, the movie doesn't explain anything. We smash cut, we're listening to the Oscars, and Joan clearly has lied about being sick, so she doesn't have to go to the Oscars, which makes no sense to me whatsoever.
She was nervous.
Okay, but that is not in this at
So
all.
yeah, so
Like, that's
the
not
real life is
it.
that Joan was like very nervous because it's the first time, I think maybe it was the first time she was ever nominated for an Oscar. I know it's the only Oscar she ever won, but it was like a
Yeah.
big deal for her, and she was like, I'm so nervous I can't go. So she pretended to have the flu, and then that way when she won, they ended up like bringing a camera crew and the Oscar to her, and so there's pictures of her like in bed accepting her Oscar.
Yeah, I've seen that picture.
But so she was just at home pretending to be sick, listening to the win here, and then she wins obviously, and she goes out. There's like a bunch of paparazzi outside.
Yeah.
Were they called that then?
Yeah.
And she's like, comes out clearly not sick, and it's like, I adore my fans, blah blah blah. Blah. And then
she basically gives the same speech that Tina gave in the mirror earlier in the movie.
yes, oh, you're right. You're totally right.
It's like almost word for word.
And then my favorite shot in the whole movie, they all go inside, and camera kind of like pushes in on Tina shutting the door as all like you hear the flash bulbs and the reporters chatter, and she gets this like smile on her face, like, this is all for me, and like obviously she knows it isn't, but it's this like, this could be mine one day, and it's like, I don't know why, it's like, I love that.
Yeah, no, it's also incredibly sad because it's like, this is the only thing this kid knows love to be.
Yeah. And now we get the scene.
Yeah, the scene of the movie. And here's the question that I have for
Okay.
you. Why are there wire hangers in the house?
I think from dry cleaning.
Okay.
I think it's just from dry clean, like a dry cleaning thing, and then I'm assuming it's Carol Ann's job or someone's job to like, because there's no way. It seems weird that a little kid's like putting the dry cleaning back on.
Yeah, the whole time I'm watching this closet scene, I'm like, she can't reach that. Like, how is she hanging those clothes up? I don't see a little step stool anywhere.
Although it is possible because Christina also said that Joan never cleaned. She made Christopher and Christina do it while she stood behind them and watched them.
Okay, that seems accurate
Tracks.
to the movie anyway. Yeah.
So I guess it wouldn't be shocking for her to be like, put this on a hanger. But like a quick scene of like, here's your dry cleaning, Tina, darling. Go hang it on the proper hanger.
Yeah.
So that like this has an ounce of context, but also like,
Right.
I would love to fix this movie, but also I wouldn't, because it is this like perfect time capsule of insanity.
Right.
Of people who thought
But
they
it's
were
just-
doing one thing, and it's just like big swing and a miss. Like they swung so hard that they threw themselves to the ground.
Well, the other thing about it that it's very strange to me is like, when this book came out, everybody who knew Joan Crawford like lined up to say Tina was full of shit, which sucks. I mean, that was the society we lived in now. Then it's somewhat better now.
There were a handful of people that backed her up in interviews, but for the most part, people were like, this is a lie.
Everybody who backed her up was like, she was a really strict parent, but I never saw abuse.
No, there's two like big interviews that I know from like IMDb or whatever that like one person story was like, Joan was having some women over and there was a box of chocolates, and Christopher asked for a chocolate, and she said, you can have one, and he took one, and then when he thought she wasn't looking, he took another, and she saw and made him eat the entire box of chocolates till he threw up, and then was like, you're not going to do that again, right? And then the other one was that like Tina wasn't engaging people at one of Joan's parties because she was supposed to go to her own party, so Joan made her like grab the present that she was supposed to take to this birthday party and sit on the stairs and not go. Like, so like there were a few people who were like, I guess they were like, I'm bold enough to say that like, no, this did happen, but
like every famous person like lined up to be like, no, this kid's full of shit, and it's just like, to what end and purpose? Like, why?
I think it's the same thing as like cops closing ranks at like famous people, because I think as soon as you show one crack in the armor, it's like, well, there's no way you didn't know about this, so you just have to say that it didn't happen.
I think you're right. I meant, to what purpose would her lying about this serve? It's like, I guess she sold some more books by being salacious, but like to be forever associated with this. Like, this is the only thing you know Christina Crawford from, is like, oh, you wrote that book about how your mom beat the shit out of you all the time and psychologically tortured you. Like, it's not like it helped your career. It's like, let's hire Christina Crawford to get out there and do this, right? Like, that so it's just, it's stupid.
Well, and then my favorite were the Hollywood people who were like, as though like the fact that Christina was adopted, they were like, she adopted her, like she was homeless, and it's like, okay, like That is not
so she doesn't
part of this.
Deserve to be treated like a human. Like she's a cast off. She's trash. Yeah. But anyway, she goes nuts here, and like her ripping all the clothes out is very funny. And I was like, I guarantee you, she's going to beat this child with a hanger. Like I'm just waiting for that part, and then it comes, very shortly thereafter that she starts wailing on.
But it looks like it's insert shots because clearly they were like, "There's no fucking way we're letting you near this child because you're an unhinged monster."
Yeah, exactly.
So they basically got like a scarecrow and put Tina's pajamas on it.
Yes,
like that to me is why it's so funny because it's clearly just a scarecrow.
There's one scene where you see the hanger like lift off the actress's body and into the air, but you don't see it come back down. That's the only time when Tina is like in contact with the hanger with Joan. And I think it was probably very clear, like, you are going to lift it off and you are going to do your line. And if you bring it back down, we're going to tase you. There's like a team of...
It's the T-Rex. It's like the Velociraptor squad.
Yes.
Shoot.
Yeah, they're like, there are 6 men with rifles trained on you and you will be put down with tranq darts.
And then she goes into the bathroom and she's like, this bathroom isn't clean. She keeps running her hand on this, and I rented this through Hoopla, which is the library rental service, so I don't think it was in true HD, but she keeps running her hand on stuff and holding it up being like, see, look at the filth, and I was like, I genuinely cannot. I don't think there was. I think that was the point.
Yeah the OCD or whatever she clearly had.
So she's ripped all the clothes off this little closet walkway. She's beaten her daughter, and then she's like throwing this powdered soap everywhere.
Yeah,
it's like a color run
soap container. Yeah. Or Holi, the Indian festival.
Yeah, that just happened actually.
Yeah, and then she's hitting her with the can of the stuff.
Mm-hmm. Clean, like making her clean, and just like all the time she's also like wearing a face mask, like a
yes,
not like like the kind you would just, like a cosmetic mask. Yeah, so she looks like a fairy tale witch again. Like she looks like she's gonna lure you into a gingerbread house.
Yeah, and I will say, this kid actor is actually better than average here.
Oh, I think she's very good.
Movie. Yeah, but they also have her, because she's Joan Crawford's daughter, like sort of glammed up like a pageant child, and it's so hard to look at. It's just like, whoa, you look the wrong age and stuff. But she gives this is like
Jesus Christ,
the most she gets to do. Yeah, she's like, it's this perfectly exasperated, like, Jesus Christ, like, what is my life? And it's like, oh man, this poor kid.
Well, we also get one of my favorite, like, chilling lines, because she says something to her, and Christina replies, "Yes, mommy," and she's like, "Yes, mommy, what?" And she says, "Yes, mommy dearest," and then Joan Crawford says, "When I told you to call me mommy dearest, I wanted you to mean it." And it's like bone chilling, but apparently that was the thing. Like they had to call her mommy dearest, and if they didn't, it was like fucking Orin Scrivello DDS from Little Shop, like doctor.
Yeah. The brother gets up and he's like, "I want to help," and she's like, "No, strap
back in bed. Strap yourself back in.
If she sees you out, she'll kill me." And I'm like, she might. Actually.
She might. So the powdered soap thing is one of the things that started happening at like showings when people started like realizing this was a comedy. They would bring like wire hangers and like props, and one of the props was like powdered soap, like it was a Rocky Horror Picture Show thing.
Oh, those poor theater owners. And I'm sorry, those poor people who make minimum wage to clean up the theater, not the theater owner.
Although I imagine that there was, like with Rocky Horror, it was like an established thing.
So I don't know. I just saw on Twitter like a day ago. I'm glad this came up. Somebody posted a picture from a screening after The Room of like how trashed the theater was with the plastic spoons and all the other stuff people do during that. And so it's like,
wait, like
have you seen The Room?
The one with Brie Larson?
No, The Room, the Tommy.
Oh, yes. Okay. I was like, what? Yeah. I was like, people do that to the Brie Larson movie? That's weird.
No. There's inexplicably a bunch of framed photos of plastic spoons in the Tommy Wiseau movie, The Room. And so people at the midnight screenings will bring like boxes of spoons and throw like fistfuls of plastic spoons toward the front of the theater. So it's like, it is easier to clean up than powdered soap, but I wouldn't want to do either, you know?
They just get a snow shovel and just like...
Yeah, they'd be a big push broom or whatever. But they were showing the picture of the theater after the screening of the room. And it's just like, I don't know, several hundred plastic spoons. And I was like, God, the poor people who have to clean this up. That sucks.
But I assume that was like denoted as a interactive show. Like with Rocky Horror, like it is denoted as like, this is an interactive experience.
Right, but like Rocky Horror, the culture of it tended to be, I don't know if this is always the case, like you stayed around and helped clean up the mess you made. Like that was sort of part of it.
Yeah.
Instead of just like throwing barkeeper's friend all over this theater. So it's Christmas. We're on the radio with Joan and the children, and they have to like...
And these kids are media trained.
Yes, exactly. And then this cuts right to like they leave. One of Joan's men comes over, and this is something that I saw.
Well, it's a different day entirely. The Christmas insert again probably could have been lifted out of this movie because it doesn't offer anything. And then we just cut to several days, like weeks or whatever later, when a new man comes over. And
so, you know, Christina's playing bartender. She's pouring him a scotch, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! That's like a lot of scotch."
5 fingers of scotch.
Yeah, it's a full tumbler, but she was pouring for her Uncle Greg, who was also an alcoholic, so she didn't know.
We get the leg! The leg!
Yes, yeah, she very bendable, Faye Dunaway, I will say. Very, very bendable.
She's in the mirror. It literally, you know what it is? It's fucking Buffalo Bill.
Oh, yeah, it's very Buffalo Bill.
She's in the mirror, like, sitting on a chair, and she lifts her right leg to her left cheek, and she just, like, she might as well lick it. Like...
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically the energy here.
It is banana pants.
But yeah, Christina makes the new man a drink, and she's like, I think you can call him uncle. And this was another thing in the book. She's like, I had to call all these men uncle. Like my mother would date them for a while, and then it was like, oh, this is your uncle. And then she said some of them she was supposed to call gremlin, which I was waiting for that to be in this, but it never popped up.
Yeah.
But the whole point of this evening in the movie is she gives Greg, or the new Greg, she gives the new Beau a drink, and then she goes to make her mom a drink and brings it up to her, and Joan is furious that she did this.
Yeah.
Like, inexplicably out of her mind.
She interrupted Bonetown.
Yeah, but not really. Like, it had just started. Like,
I mean, I know that, but like, I think in Joan world.
Right.
Well, and I think this was also part, because Joan also at points in her life insinuated that Christina was coming on to Joan's like husbands or men or whatever.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
So I don't know if this was supposed to be that or what, but
yeah, I mean, it certainly could be if you were a lunatic.
Because we smash cut to boarding school.
Yeah, she ships her off to boarding school. So it's like we drop off a child, Christina, at the thing, and then it's like now she's a teenager, you know, older, and I was like, oh, that's probably how Joan felt about this too.
Of course, and the casting of young to old Christina is spot on.
Amazing! It's truly maybe the best I've ever seen.
It feels like Boyhood. We were like, did they just pause filming for 10 years or whatever?
Yeah, you know what's freaky good at the young versions of old adults casting? The show Yellowstone. Every time they do,
you mean Yellow Jackets?
Shocked. No, I'm talking about Yellowstone.
They do time jumping in Yellowstone too.
Oh yeah, baby.
I didn't know that.
We're jumping. Oh yeah. Can I tell you one side note, one anecdote?
Go for it.
So, in that show, the mother is dead. Like before the show starts. Like the fact that she's dead, and like constantly throughout the show characters are like talking about the dead mother in these like reverential tones, and like just like really like she's like the saint of the family. They never stop talking about her. In the pilot of Yellowstone, one of the brothers dies. This is like a very mild spoiler.
It's the
like
pilot.
One of the brothers dies in the pilot. He's never mentioned again.
Fuck his drag.
I haven't done season 4 yet, but they have never mentioned this dead brother and the dead mom comes up like almost every episode.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
Is that Sam Neill or Sam Elliott?
No, Sam Elliott is in the prequel series called 1883 with Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, which I did not care for, but the Kevin Costner one is
Kevin Costner. I think that's probably who I was thinking of.
Well, Sam Neill, the other one is related, so it's extremely soap opera-y, but I enjoy it. Older Christina is having dinner with mom, more rare steak that she doesn't get any choice in. She's very clearly honked about this.
Yeah.
But we don't see the aftermath.
Well, and then the waiter compliments Tina on her hat, and she's like, "Oh, thank you. I picked it up myself," or whatever. Just whatever. And in front of the waiter, Joan's like, "Stop flirting, slut."
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, she starts like lecturing her of like keeping up appearance. And it's like, she made like she treated him like a person. Like it wasn't even that flirty.
And then Christina's like, "Look at my report card. I got all A's and a B." And I was like, I wonder what that's like.
Actually, she says, "I got all A's and 1 B."
Yeah, she hides that B. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm studying for exams. Like, I guess finals are coming up." And Joan's like, "And how are you getting on writing our Christmas cards?" And she's like, "Not at all, because I'm studying for exams." And Joan's like, "This is ridiculous."
Yeah. And it's like, I at first I was like, why is Tina sending? Oh, she means her Christmas cards. Right.
Yeah. Our collective Christmas cards.
Right. So we go home. She asks Tina for some help around the house. Tina's doing some laundry. Joan is like, "We're flat broke. We got no money. I can't afford to pay for school. So I had to call and get you into like a work study." And Tina's very chill about this. It seems like at school, she's sort of like gotten her life to be what she wants.
She's her own human there.
Yeah. And so it seems like she's learned to like it, even though it's like really, very
I think in the end she was like, "Wait a minute, I don't have to be around my mother?"
Right.
Score 1 for boarding school.
Yeah, but so Joan is like falling to pieces here, and Tina's very kind to her, which is like, what you'd expect for someone who's been psychologically abused for their entire life.
Yeah.
It's not that shocking. But we go from this to she comes up to say goodnight to Joan, who has drank herself into
It's the same night.
Stupor. Yeah. It's like later that day. And the Carol Ann comes to help. She thinks she needs an ambulance. She's like,
she's the only one who's left on the staff. Joan made that point.
Yeah, she fired everybody else. But she sees all these brand new shoes in the closet.
And dresses
like, when did these
and
come?
All these shopping spree.
And she's like, "Oh, they all came in today." And she's like, "Oh, so it was all lies. Great." Like just everything about this is the shittiest.
Mm-hmm. So Christina ends up getting caught necking in the stables with the boy.
Yeah, the dude is like, "Don't worry about her. We're just friends." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And they've just started to kiss each other. Like everyone's
her skirt's coming up a little
bit, but it's also like shifted up, like because she moved to kiss him, not like he's got his hand up.
I think his hand. No, his hands.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the hand. We just see like
he's not like trying to take her underwear off, but he's clearly like, let me touch something.
Touching her thigh. Yeah. But the girl comes in, and this is supposed to be a teenager, right? Like I got these to be like 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds.
I think they were. I got 17, 18.
Okay. So older than I had. It must be closer to mine though, because she goes to another school after. So
that's right, or convent, I guess. I don't know if that's a school.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is there, but the girl's like, "I'm gonna tell," and I'm like, "What the? You're gonna tell?"
Because she's the girl that he said not to worry about.
I know that, but like, hit him with a hay bale. I'm gonna tell.
Yeah,
what a weird.
I'm getting you both. I'm getting her expelled because I want this man to myself, and it's 1940, so the woman's always at fault.
Yeah, I would take my revenge more directly. That's all I'm saying.
So the Joan shows up, and the headmistress is like, "Look, they're both on probation. They have no privileges for a month. Like an understandable reaction for this happening in a high school setting."
Yeah.
And Joan's like,
and again, they were just kissing.
Well, they were definitely about to not be just kissing.
Okay, but she does say that was my first kiss. Like, it would be a really wild choice to go from your first kiss to losing your virginity in the same 20-minute section.
That's fair.
I mean, I'm not saying that this man wouldn't have gotten more aggressive or shitty or whatever. Again, like you said, it was a time frame when women basically were treated as objects. But like, maybe hand stuff. But this seemed
they were gonna do. I don't think they were just gonna keep kissing. But yeah, Joan's basically like, "Nice whore school, headmistress.
Yeah,
I'm taking my daughter out." And
the headmistress is like, it was very tame. Like, even she is like, it's not that big a deal. They're teenagers.
It's fine. And as Joan's driving her home, she opens the glove compartment to pull out her flask.
Yes.
While she's driving and it's empty. So another classic line where Tina's like, there's a liquor store over here, and Joan goes, I should have known you'd know where to find the booze and the boys, and like throws the flask at her.
Yeah.
Or boys and the booze, I think.
Yeah, I think it's boys and the booze. So we get home and it's like, oh, there's a Red Book interviewer here. Like, you got to be on your best behavior.
Don't you fuck this up for me.
Yeah. And we see the reporter. She's got this huge table spread out. She's got a typewriter. She's got an overflowing ashtray. She's got a cocktail. And it's just like, man, this is impressive spread here.
Yeah. Oh, to be a reporter in the 40s covering stars.
Right.
And so the reporter is obviously someone that like Joan has known her for a while because she's like, oh, Christina, I haven't seen you since you were a child. And then she's talking about school or whatever. And then Joan says she got expelled from school. And Christina says, that's a lie in front of the reporter. And Joan is, you can see the white hot rage in her eyes.
Yeah. But like, honestly, at this point, I'm glad Tina's standing up for herself.
I am too.
Like, I didn't get expelled. Like, that's a shitty thing to say about me. That's not what happened.
Also, that reflects badly on you as a mom.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
So she goes into they go into the other room and they start fighting and then like just arguing. And then Barbara comes in, another great line that I quote all the time. Barbara, please, Barbara.
Yeah.
And then they get really into it because, Christina's like, why did you adopt me? Like, I'm not one of your fans. I don't have to, like, she's like, why can't you treat me with respect? I'm entitled to. And she says, I'm not one of your fucking fans. Like, why did you adopt me? For PR? And so Joan starts strangling her and they crash through a glass table. And this was the scene that I alluded to before where like Barbara's actress was like, I'm not going fucking anywhere near her. Absolutely not.
This is like, I saw her like start to advance like with choking hands, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And then they go crashing.
Well, because maybe she's gonna grab her by the collar.
Yeah. But it's just like, "Oh shit!" They went through a table. This is crazy.
Yeah, like she's one hair away from reaching under the couch and pulling out a folding chair.
Oh, for sure. By God, Crawford from behind. So she gets shipped off to I don't know if this is a convent or a school. It's not 100% clear. If it was a convent, you'd think she would have a little more say in this.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe it is a school. I don't know how nunneries work.
But she definitely doesn't have much say in her life because the nun is like, your mother's told us that you need to be treated like you have just all of your rights taken away. So you'll never be able to make a phone call. No one will ever be able to call you. You won't be able to go outside. I'm like, is this solitary?
No mail.
Because there's limits on that in prisons.
Yes. So we smash cut to Joan marrying Al Steele, the king of Pepsi Cola.
So Christina like meets him, like goes from that to Christina meeting him for the first time, and she's like, "What should I call him?" And she's like, "Daddy, of course." And I'm like, "That's a little weird. You just met this man to call him Daddy."
Yeah. In real life, Christina also alleges that I think Christina has alleged that Joan might have had a hand in Al Steele's death.
The movie implies it sort of. It's like very much that it goes for, like Al Steele's in this movie for like what 9 minutes, like total, and the way that it ends with him, I was like, oh, are they insinuating that Joan killed him? And then they weren't, but I was like, oh, sort of you did though. Yeah,
because basically Joan didn't have a lot of money, so she married this, CEO at Pepsi, who didn't have a lot of money. But he was marrying a movie star that he thought had a lot of money. Yeah. So they both kind of like married for money and didn't realize that that udder had run dry.
Yeah.
So basically she became a mouthpiece for Pepsi for like the rest of her life. Yeah. Because it's played differently in the movie, but in real life, basically all of his debts went to her. And Pepsi was like, well, you can, basically the equivalent of like, you can wash dishes.
Yeah.
So she became their spokeswoman forever.
Yeah.
Like to the point where she is so famously like a Pepsi lady that like, for my boyfriend's birthday last year or 2 years ago, I made him a card that was Joan Crawford with a Pepsi on it. And it said, I love you more than the crisp, refreshing taste of an ice cold Pepsi Cola.
Yeah, this part with the Mr. Steele is bonkers. It's like they get married, then Christina meets him, then they're like building an apartment, and Joan is just like rip the
that
the
bitch
wall
of a
out.
bearing wall.
Yeah, it's like, well, that seems like a poor choice, but all right. And then Tina's like, hey, I actually need a little money. And she's like, not a chance. And he like takes her aside and peels off some cash. And then he cuts from that to him being like, oh yeah, so we need to talk about money. Like we need to cut back on spending. And she's like, never, I'm Joan Crawford.
She's like,
Whoop, he's
make the
dead.
company pay for it. And he's like,
Yeah.
that's you've never been in real business. That's not how this
Yes.
works.
Yeah, exactly. So he's dead.
So this guy's dead.
Yeah.
And we get yet another iconic scene of Joan in the boardroom of the Pepsi boardroom, and they're basically saying like, he's dead. You can go now, ma'am. Which I didn't know you could just retire someone off a board. Like I thought that was not how that worked.
I think it's a situation where like you can vote people off the island. Essentially. Okay. The real timeline is that like you said, he died, and then many years later she left the board. But this makes it seem like they tried to immediately shuffle her off the board.
But they didn't want to because they still needed the money back. That he took out like advances on his paycheck and like all of this shit. So they were basically like, yeah, no, you are now the official forever mouthpiece for Pepsi. Like in 80 years, when we learn the technology, we're gonna do fucking holograms of Joan Crawford shilling Pepsi.
Yeah, yeah. But they don't really they in this point they're like, you should just cut us a check and leave. And she fights them because the answer is, I can't cut you.
I don't have money. But she says, you think you're pretty clever, don't you? Don't fuck with me, fellas.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I'm gonna go tell everyone that Pepsi is trash and that you did this to me.
Joan goes to visit Christina in her apartment, and Joan's dressed like I Dream of Jeannie.
Yes, it's very wild.
I guess to show like it's a different decade, or like it's not I don't know. But it's this very like simple little artist's apartment. Mm-hmm. And Joan,
it's a huge apartment for someone who's struggling.
I mean, yeah, but like it's decorated.
It's a movie apartment.
It's movie code for I'm a struggling actor, but this is like a 2-bedroom. Right. Joan gives her this like gorgeous set of pearls. Mm-hmm. And then like there's a line that like I like it because it feels like Joan's trying to be normal. Yeah. Because she gives her the pearls and Tina's clearly very like crying about it. And Joan's like, if you don't get the role tomorrow, that audition, don't hawk them. Like, which like,
it was
in
sweet.
normal world
it was sweet.
Is a fun, sweet little like nudge in the rib. But coming from this woman, it feels like, ah.
Meanwhile, Joan's drinking room temp vodka like a college freshman.
Ugh. Keep your vodka in the freezer.
So
Christina gets cast in a soap opera.
Yep. And Joan is like watching the soap. We're drinking more room temp vodka in this scene. Like she has
in the middle of the day.
Room temp vodka. Yeah. And she watches the soap for like, I don't know, a quarter of a scene, and then she's like, get this trash off my television.
No, because I think so. She comes in late, and then it goes to a commercial. So then they mute the TV, and then Christina has an ovarian tumor and has to be in the hospital. And this is real.
I was waiting for this. I know. I was waiting for this part because I kind of was skimming the wiki for the autobiography. And I was like, if you told me this in the abstract, I would not believe that it was real and really happened. So I was glad that I knew this before I saw it in the movie, because I was like, I would have been like, all right, hold on a minute. And it is insane that this is real. Like, I can't believe anyone thought this was a good idea.
Late 60s, Joan Crawford stepped in for her 28-year-old daughter on the soap opera
for like a week. There's no surviving footage of the whole episode, but there are clips.
Yeah. And then shortly after, she was let go from her role, and she always kind of blamed Joan, but the studio was like, no, Joan gave us a bump. Like, we didn't give a shit.
Yeah. But also, it just kind of like is a weird dynamic.
Oh my God, that's weird.
I also didn't know soaps were live back then.
Mm-hmm. It's because it was cheaper.
I know that's a joke on Futurama. Yeah. And then they went live to tape not long after this.
Yeah, that's why there was all the
tape. They were taped.
The cue card and that all the way they were filmed. It was all designed. And they still are filmed that same way, even though that's just not. They're not live.
Yeah.
Because I think that
they
episode
might still use cue cards.
I think that episode of Psych was live. That was the joke. That like when they were on the telenovela, they had to do it live.
I don't think so.
I thought so because she like couldn't break character, and he had to like warn her that the nail gun was real or something.
I'm not sure. I don't know that they did. I didn't know that they did a live one.
No, the episode itself wasn't live, but they were on the set of a telenovela, and the telenovela was live.
You're saying there's footage on the Psych television show that is in a live telenovela episode that also aired? The kayfabe you're losing me on here.
So, Sean...
Oh. In the kayfabe of the episode of Psych,
yes,
the episode
Sean had to go on and had to act on a TV show.
Yes, okay, I understand. Yes, okay.
I don't know what episode, but...
That is correct. Yeah, what you said is accurate, yes. That I 100% yes. There was too much kayfabe.
So Christina...
And they also intimate that Christina didn't know that Joan was doing this. The nurse is like, oh, they just announced your mom's going to be replacing you. And she's like, what? My mom's 60. Like, that's insane. And they turn the TV on and it's happening.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. Again, entertainment industry.
No, I wouldn't either. Yeah.
So then she recovers and Tina appears on Joan's behalf at a benefit. And then Joan dies.
Yeah, it's like real quick. I was expecting her to like rake Tina over the coals for doing a bad job with the award acceptance. I was waiting for that scene.
And then we get another special light on Joan's corpse.
Yes.
That's my favorite one.
The corpse.
It's just a halo of light around her head as she's a corpse.
Yeah. And then Carol Ann walks in, and clearly, like, she's the closest thing that either of these people had to a mother in their lives, and they are both very happy to see her. Christopher's here as well. Did you recognize the actor who played Christopher? He was just on this podcast not very long ago. It's Xander Berkeley, who plays the stepdad in Terminator 2.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Huh.
Not the husband, the brother, the older Christopher. He's only in this one scene.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Huh. And this is...
so the age makeup on Carol Ann is pretty good. I was impressed.
It's pretty good. It's solid. It's solid makeup.
Yeah. Also, so they go from this to the will reading. And I've noticed this. I've seen a few shows or movies lately that had a will reading. And people are always holding hands in them. And presumably it's like they're supposed to be like supporting each other. They're grieving and stuff. But it always looks like they're going...
big money,
no whammies, big money, no whammies, big money, no whammies. Yes.
I think it's because they're always like at an up angle.
Yeah.
And it needs to be a down. It needs to be your hands are like casually on the arm and you're holding for not up.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where we get the, it is my intention herein to make no provision for Christina and Christopher for reasons that are well known to them. And Christopher says she got the last word in as usual. And Tina goes, did she?
It's this James the Giant Peach ass ending. Like Pete Postlethwaite needs to show up and voiceover being like, and that is what you've just finished watching. Like, what the fuck is the ending of this movie? Are you shitting me? Maybe she will. Maybe she won't. Get out of town. Jump off a bridge. What?
Well, also, I like that Joan's other children aren't in this movie at all and aren't at this reading of the will.
Right.
She had twins after these kids.
Right. Well, there's a very acrimonious relationship between Tina and Christina and those women, those kids.
Cindy and Kathy.
I assume that's why. Yeah.
But you could still put them in the movie. Like, they were there.
Yeah, I don't know.
What are your thoughts? I'm going to ask you your thoughts since you were the new one to this.
So I get it. Like I can objectively see how this like becomes the thing that it did. I totally get it. Like it's insane, but I did not enjoy it on that level because I just felt bad for the two children in this who were just like you're just watching like it's like a hilarious tale of child abuse is sort of what this movie is, and so it's like I totally get like the Faye Dunaway stuff, like the performance is lunatic level, the like everything about this movie is bonkers.
It's
like,
camp. It's high camp.
Yeah. And I've also learned in the past like year that like I think I don't know what that word means. And cause like things that I would call campy, I don't think are camp. And I don't know if those are different and perhaps maybe not the identical to one another.
So the big thing that
I think as a straight man, I'm deeply unqualified to determine what is or is not camp, which is fine. But I have like a thing in my head for like I would call campy, and I would like this movie falls into what in my head I'm like, oh, this is campy. So I just think that I'm like, oh, I don't know what this is, and that's fine.
So the big explanation that I always take for camp that I got from like a girl in a YouTube video said it. I was like, that makes perfect sense because I also got Susan Sontag's Notes on Camp for Christmas. I just haven't read it yet. She did a great video about what making this movie and what it did to Faye Dunaway and like all the stuff that was crazy behind the scenes. I think it's called like The Aftermath of Making Mommie Dearest. The channel's Be Kind Rewind. It's like a 50-minute video. It's like a real video essay. But like camp is thought of in terms of there's no depth or realism. It is in quotes. So it is not Joan, but Joan. Or like it's not a chair, it's a chair. So it's this like air quotes concept that is just like taken at face value.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's like it's sort of like a Supreme Court porn thing of like I know it when I see it.
Yes,
like things things that I have called campy, I don't think are camp, right? Like parts of Evil Dead 2 are campy, yes. Like that. Yeah, a word is accurate, but that movie is not camp, right?
Not as a whole, but it's those. Sam Raimi understands camp. I don't know if he realizes it, but he understands camp. Yeah.
So that's I get it. I do not enjoy it on that level. You know what I mean? It's not like Heathers where I'm like, oh, I hate this, and like everybody.
I forgot you hate Heathers.
Yeah. It's not like, oh, everyone else is enjoying this in a different way than I am, and I see it, but I don't meet you there. Like that's for this one. It's like I see it, I just don't. It doesn't land there for me, and so I just like I said, it's like. Every time the kids were involved, I was just sad, like when it's like she's cutting her hair off and the kid's crying when she's beating her with a hanger. Like, yes, it is funny objectively, like it's a very stupid dummy and stuff like that. But then like moments later, she's like weeping in the bathroom, getting hit with a thing of soap. I just was like, I can't laugh at this. Like it's not hitting me in that way, but I get it. Like I understand it. It didn't land for me that way. So, I'll live there.
I think the key for me is always that like,
I cannot believe a movie this long has this reputation though, because it is so much to sit through for this type of entertainment of like laughing at it. Like the room is like 90 minutes, like you're in and out of that thing quickly. It's bonkers to me that this movie is this long and has endured in this way.
Yeah. For me, it always comes back to the fact that like these people all thought they were making like an Oscar darling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, that's to me a big part of why I enjoy it so much is like, how did you, like, Faye Dunaway, you have an Oscar. Like, you did Network already. You're a good actress. Like, what happened?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the.
I feel like fucking, who does Kathy Bates play in Misery?
Annie Wilkes.
I feel like Annie Wilkes. I'm just like, have you all gone crazy? That's not what happened.
Cock-a-doodie?
You didn't get out. She didn't have a cock-a-doodie wire hanger.
The thing of it is like they thought they were making a capital I, capital M important movie. Like they thought they were saying something.
Hitting those T's in important.
Yeah. And it's like, you could do that, but you didn't. It is possible to do what you aim to do, but you did not do it.
Yes.
So I think that's where it lands in that regard. But like the best kinds of bad movies, in my opinion, are the ones where people are trying very hard and fail, as opposed to ones where people are like in on the joke.
Yeah.
Which is like The Room is the whole idea of The Room is like, it's all that. It's just bonkers,
Yes. He
thought he was
earnest.
Yeah. So I get all that. I just 2 hours and 8 minutes is
it's too long.
Like even if you like this a lot, I think you would acknowledge that like it's a long version of this thing.
Yeah.
So I am surprised they haven't cut the like fun version and it's 90 minutes because who cares? Like the narrative is inconsequential to this movie. It doesn't really have one.
I think it's because everyone has a different like favorite parts. So when you go cutting things, it's sort of like you're kind of like, well, some fucking dude out there is going to be like, they didn't put this part, they cut this part out.
Yeah, but it's like, is anybody's favorite part where they like sit on the couch and talk about Christmas? No, probably not, right? Like you could lose that. It just feels like
that's what I'm saying. Like you think that, but gays are crazy. Like some gay is going to be like, they cut out Christmas, and that's I laughed the most at that scene, and he'd be like, okay,
yeah. Yeah. Also, I've come to the conclusion lately in the small snippets of gay culture that hit my radar that like it's just meaner than me, and that's part of it. And it's just like that's fine. That's not a judgment. It's just it is meaner than me, and I'm like, nah, I don't need that. Like it's just that's I think there's a meanness inherent in the enjoyment of that I not that I don't laugh at. I just said I enjoy laughing when people tried really hard, but like the meanness of the Joan Crawford thing, I think, resonates in a way that doesn't in The Room, maybe.
A little bit. Well, I think Joan Crawford also was just like a gay icon.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
What?
You call every person a gay icon.
No.
I don't know how.
And not in the facetious sense. In the truly like she and Betty Davis, like old glam Hollywood stars tend to have that like icon quality in the queer community. Like anytime that there was a retrospective in the 60s where these actresses would show up on stage and whatever, it was a room full of gay men just like fawning over them.
Makes sense. Yeah. The other funny little thing tied into this movie, the actress who played, I think it was the younger version of
Christina?
Tina. Yeah. Was in a Broadway show that closed on opening night called Moose Antlers, something or other, which I thought you would know, but
I missed that one.
It's like this infamous Broadway. It had 13 previews and then it literally closed. It ran for one night and that was it. That was the end.
Huh. I know Carrie is famously that kind of musical.
Yeah. The one night I think is among the fastest ever, but it was pretty interesting. She was also on an episode of our parents' favorite Blue Bloods in season.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so look out for that if you're looking for more from this actress.
Older Christina was in Pushing Daisies.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
She played a nun in like season in the.
Oh, that's kind of like wink, wink.
I like that. Yeah, I want to rewatch Pushing Daisies in general.
Is that show camp? Because my answer feels like yes.
Yeah, that show's camp.
Qualified. Okay.
Because I think that's Brian Fuller. I'm pretty sure Brian Fuller is a gay.
And he's not the creep.
No, that's Bryan Singer.
Singer's the creep. Okay.
Bryan Singer had the sex parties, allegedly. Brian Fuller is just a gay who's creative. But Pushing Daisies is definitely camp.
So I'm guessing this is a recommend from you.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a recommend.
I will say, I know it's too long. I know that it's too long.
Yeah.
But if you like this kind of thing, if you're in the queer community, like it's just part of the lexicon. And it helps to understand let's say like get some references.
I think you know if you would like this or not, and like if you think you would like it, seek it out. I think it's like very easy to know that. I think
I would agree.
I could have probably watched it. I mean, I just watched it because I was like, I need to. I don't have a choice here. So it's like I don't mean that like in a. Just like
you're bullying me, Trip.
He is. Well, you're bullying me by making me watch this movie, so we're bullying each other. But it was just like, I'm watching this movie, so I'm just gonna put it on and I'll see what happens. And then I was like, 2 hours and 8 minutes. Good.
Did your fiance watch any of it?
No, I did not. I was like,
I wasn't sure. Maybe she walked into the room or whatever.
No. She rarely watches the movies for the podcast, so I was not going to cash in one of my chips. On this.
No, but I mean, like my boyfriend has walked through when I'm watching before, so I wasn't sure if she was like, huh?
Yeah, no, not in this case. So don't forget to send us your listener request month picks. It's 856-DISSECT. Call in, leave us a message, let us know where you're coming from. Check us out on Facebook or on Twitter. It's at Dissect the 80s on Twitter. If you'd like to say hello to us there, we always love to see listeners out in the Twitterverse. We will be back in 2 weeks with another APTSITMOA pick that I'm going to learn about right now, and it is...
It actually I decided to do another tie-in since March was tie-ins. We're going to do The Watcher in the Woods in 1980, starring Betty Davis.
I've seen this movie.
You have?
I've seen this movie. Yeah, I have. I watched it a few years ago.
Is it bad?
Have you seen it?
No.
It's very boring. It's extremely boring.
But it's only 85 minutes.
Yes, but it is extremely boring. So we'll see how you feel about it.
I may regret this decision, but I was like, it seems that's like a fun...
You might like it because you liked that Guillermo del Toro that I didn't like. This is like
which one? Nightmare Alley?
The other one. The
Crimson Peak.
Yes.
The gothic one.
Yes.
Well, we've decided
Yes.
somehow. I need to pull my queer hive mind.
Gothic. I think Gothic is a queer thing. I think like the longing of the Gothic stuff.
I think
because
I believe
I
it.
also hated season. I gave up after 2 episodes of Haunting of Bly Manor. I was like,
I
too
love
much
Bly
long.
Manor.
Yeah, I know, and it's the worst of the two. Like I couldn't fit it.
I don't think it's. I mean, yeah, because if you're doing A and B, one has to be better. I think season 1 is better, but I don't think season 2 is bad.
I just told you.
You do.
2 episodes, and I was like, I'm out. This ain't for me. There's too much longing.
No, it's so good. It is the threads that you're following. It's great.
The logging that you're doing, the long looks across the room to people, the unrequited glances.
Someday you should give it another shot because
we only have so many precious life.
The twists and turns are so good, and the scares are good, and the story is good.
There were too many people gazing longingly across a room at other people.
And that mirror ghost, God, that mirror ghost scared the shit out of me.
I never even got to the mirror ghost because I only made it 2 episodes.
No. Mirror ghost is there in like episode 1.
Okay.
He's the one with the spooky eyes, the black shape with the bright orange eyes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that now, I guess. Yeah. But anyway, so you might like Watcher in the Woods. I found it lacking, but you're right, it is only 85 minutes. So you put your 2 movies together and they average out.
That's why I was like, you know what? This feels fair that we'll do a breezy one after my 210.
Is pretty solid. Well, we'll be back in 2 weeks to watch The Watcher in the Woods. Until then, I've been Trip Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
Until next time.
Don't you forget about me.
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.